Hi everyone, my name is Peyton Lunzer and I'm an assistant lecturer in the Learn program. In today's video, we'll be covering the impact of student identity on writing performance, especially when it comes to self-efficacy. The goal of this video is to understand how we can improve student success in writing assignments by understanding the relationship between identity and writing. Let's get started. Identity is the culmination of one's experiences, relationships, and values. It is a person's sense of self within social and cultural contexts. Personal experiences, social roles, and cultural affiliations all shape how a person perceives themselves. By exploring how identity shapes students' perceptions of their own writing abilities, we can learn how identity impacts students' motivation, self-efficacy, and writing performance. First, I want to address the notion that identity has no place in academic writing. It is easy enough to understand why we might think this. Many people seem to think that academic writing is supposed to be objective, analytical, and impersonal, while things like identity belong in the realm of personal writing. People often think that personal writing, unlike academic writing, is subjective and biased. It is about self-expression, and if it involves identity, it unnecessarily brings in things like culture, gender, class, and race. If our goal in academic writing is to produce objective, unbiased writing, then our goal should be to separate that writing from the identity of the writer. While it is important that students learn how to produce analytical writing, it's equally important that instructors understand how identity influences writing. Additionally, scholars like Gloria Anzaldúa, Deborah Brandt, and Stephen Alvarez argue that identity can never be separated from writing because language is always shaped by and embedded in political, economic, religious, and social contexts. Given these perspectives, the best thing we can do as teachers is understand when and how identity will influence student writing. In addition to prior experience with and knowledge about writing, students come to college with a range of beliefs about themselves as writers. These beliefs are usually tied up in the student's identity. For example, students who have decided on their major or their future career might have preconceived ideas about whether or not writing is useful to them. Students who are plurilingual might believe they are bad at writing in English. Students who identify as a STEM person might think they don't belong in writing communities. And all students bring their prior writing experiences, whether positive or negative, to new writing environments. All of these experiences and more can have a significant influence on how students perceive themselves as students and learners. While this self-perception can have a large impact on students' university experiences, today we'll be thinking about how it impacts self-efficacy. In the context of writing instruction, self-efficacy refers to individuals' beliefs in their capacity to successfully execute writing tasks and produce desired outcomes. Students' self-efficacy is closely intertwined with their perceptions of identity and belonging in writing contexts. This makes sense. If a student believes they are bad at writing because they are a business major, or because English is their second language, or because they did poorly in a high school English class, they are less likely to approach new writing assignments with confidence. On the flip side, if we can guide students to understand the value of writing in every major, to see their cultural linguistic background as an asset, and to believe that they can grow as a writer, regardless of their starting point, we can improve students' self-efficacy and writing performance. I want to add here that while you might think it doesn't matter if your students have confidence in their ability as writers and learners, the evidence shows that belief in writing ability really does matter. For example, a 2003 research review concludes that students' confidence in their writing capabilities influences their writing motivation as well as various writing outcomes in school, including the quality of their writing. The study also notes that some self-efficacy researchers have suggested that teachers should pay as much attention to students' perceptions of competence as to actual performance, for it is the perceptions that may more accurately predict students' motivation and future academic and professional choices. This shows that you can support and extend students' learning and long-term success by paying attention to their self-efficacy as they struggle to communicate ideas in and through writing. So, what does all this mean for writing instructors? As cheesy as it sounds, the first step is acknowledging that students will always bring their backgrounds and perspectives to our writing assignments. While it may not always be realistic to get to know each student personally, it is reasonable to craft assignments and lessons that allow for the range of writing identities that students might bring. There are several questions that writing instructors can ask themselves. How can I demonstrate the value of writing in my course subject? How can I reinforce to students that writing matters in this field or profession? How can I encourage students to embrace an engaged, learning-oriented mindset when it comes to writing in my course? Can I create more room for the cultural and linguistic backgrounds of my students? How can I help them recognize how diversity can be a strength? And how can I help them understand when the field's conventions and expectations may not have room for diversity? How can I provide opportunities for students to reflect on the relationship between their identity and their writing in this field? There are a few things you can do to begin addressing these questions. You might provide examples of writing in your field and directly link your assignments to these writings, saying things like, while this assignment might seem like a school report, you'll likely be writing reports like this as a professional. Similarly, when students see their cultural, linguistic, and personal identities reflected and valued in the writing process, they feel a greater sense of belonging and connection to the material. Providing a diverse representation of writing in your field can help students understand how their background is a strength. Lastly, studies show that metacognition, the opportunity and ability to reflect on one's writing choices, improve student learning outcomes in the writing classroom. Creating space in writing instruction and assignments for students to reflect on their growth from the beginning of class to the final assignment is one way for students to recognize that they have improved, despite whatever preconceived notions they had at the beginning of the semester. If students see that they can improve, and that improvement is worth it, they are more likely to believe in their ability as writers. All right, let's review. A student's identity can be influenced by things like previous writing experiences, students' cultural and linguistic backgrounds, and beliefs about the course subject, a student's major, or a career field. You can address student identity by providing diverse examples that illustrate the value of writing in your field, and by giving students reflective assignments acknowledging how they've improved their writing throughout this semester.